to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. It's been a little bit, only because there hasn't been too much going on. Last week was... What movie came out last week that everyone kind of vacated up? I mean, Elvis opened last week, and The Black Phone, and this week is, what's it called? This week is, that other one. Minions, but I'm not, look, if you're looking for me to cover Minions, I'm sorry, you have the wrong guy. I have zero interest in Minions. It's not even like it's a kids movie franchise from when I was a kid that I was like, ooh, well, a new one's coming out, and it's still near and dear to my heart. So, I'll sit through this nonsense. It's not even that. I have zero interest in Minions. I'm not gonna go and sit through a fucking Minions movie to be like, well, they said banana a bunch. And there were a lot of zany antics from the Minions, so I'm not gonna do Minions. I've seen the trailer so many times, it's like, it has not once done anything to win me over. And granted, I'm not the target audience, I understand that. Like, the Minions trailer doesn't have to win me over, because it will make probably $1 billion without me going to see it. And 45 days from now, it will probably end up on Peacock. But I don't know. I have zero interest in Minions, so that's that. We may have an interesting announcement tonight on 30-Minute Reviews about funding for an upcoming project. Might being the key word. I can't guarantee that we will have news. I have some math and some exploration of Shopify to do, but I think we may have come up with a solution to a funding to a funding shortfall. Well, it's not really a shortfall. There's a short that I would like to produce that I don't want to use crowdfunding platforms for. I'd rather not use like Indiegogo or Kickstarter or something like that. I'd rather do a natural, like, get the money elsewhere and then do it that way. However, getting funding for a short, especially when the majority of funding at this point would go towards equipment fees more than anything else, because there would be the need for new computer equipment, which I have my eye on something that I think would work pretty well for what we need. There would be a need for what's the other one? Computer equipment, DaVinci Resolve. I would want to upgrade to the full version just so I have the full version. And I think that's, and I probably want to get another camera. But all of that costs money, and the way that it's been budgeted, those considerations would not be part of the main budget. But I think we've come up with a solution to alleviate this a little bit. And I think that we could, if we could get enough people to buy into this plan, we could do it by, by the end of the, we probably shoot by, I would say, hopefully the end of the summer, if we can get enough people who are going to buy into this idea and support it financially. But you won't be able to avoid hearing about this on this show. There'll be 15 to 30 second clips before the show starts that I'll play, and little things like that. You will not be able to avoid hearing about this if you try. If this works out, I have to look into Shopify a little bit, see how much Shopify takes on each transaction. I gotta look into how much it is going to cost to get the materials in to then ship out, because one of the things I've noticed is Amazon takes a huge chunk of, if you self-publish through Amazon. They take a substantial amount. If you buy the Kindle edition, you get about 70%. But 70% of $3 is not a lot of money. And if you do a hardcover or a softcover, then you get even less. You get about the same amount of money per sold, but you're asking people to put in a lot more of their money to get it. Now, what I'm thinking that I'm going to explore a little bit later today is going to be, can we order author copies and then sell the author copies signed cheaper than the Amazon price through a Shopify shop? And then, I'll sell signed copies of the books. I think that might be one of the best ways to handle this situation. Because then, depending on how much Shopify takes and how much it'll cost to get the book in, we can set a price that's definitely lower, but with a higher profit margin. And that money would be going 100% towards the budget for new cool things. So keep an ear out for that. That episode will probably go up on both podcast streams, both this and 30-minute reviews. But keep an ear out as we look into this further and explore this further. We may have more information later tonight. And the thing is too, this will be a fan engagement thing where, as people buy, we will be updating on the costs of budget, how much money we've raised towards the budget, and there will be periodic updates on that as well. So that's not what people are here to talk about, though. That's not what people are here to talk about. But I think what I'm going to do too is I'm going to put up a poll probably, and that will be attached in tonight's episode. That I'll put up for both streams. Which book? Because the one that I've done so far, and it took about 3 hours last night to do this, was I did Echo Alpha. I think I'm definitely going to end up doing Swan Song as well with this new format, the new size book, the new uniform cover. I think that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to do a new uniform cover and be like, okay, so here's what we're doing, here's the cool thing, and then proceeds will go to that. But we will address all of that later today. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Ms. Marvel. The 4th episode of the show takes Kamala to to Pakistan, so she can learn about her past. And she hooks up with the Red Daggers, and she has some, interesting little adventures trying to work with the clandestine, trying to work to figure out what the clandestine want and all of that. I feel like, here's the thing about this show. I still like the show. There's nothing about the show that I don't like. I feel like it is simultaneously too focused and too not focused. Because I could do one way or the other. I could do a grounded story about this girl trying to figure out her powers, what it means for this world, and all of that. I could do that show, and that would be that would be great. It'd be fantastic. And I could also do the show where she is, laser focused on trying to, stop the clandestine from whatever the clandestine are trying to do, and all of that. I feel like doing both is a little, iffy. And I've seen people complain about the effects. I've seen people complaining about the visual effects of this show. Maybe, and I don't mean this as a dig at the Arrowverse and CW, but maybe if you've watched the Arrowverse and the CW, you're more willing to put up with bad effects. Maybe it is just me who's like, it doesn't bug me as much to see shitty effects on a TV show about superheroes. I mean, maybe it is just because I watched, the CW for so long, and I was like, okay, well, here's what we come to expect from a TV budget. But I mean, that fight with the guy with what's his name on the platform, really not good. Really kind of what's I'm looking for here. Like, the effects aren't great, and I think the choreography is kind of fine, but I think that the effects don't look as good, and I think that it's not just a problem with this show. And again, for me, it's not a problem at all. I'm just addressing what other people will find a problem with, and for me, it's not a problem at all that there's not great effects on the show. I don't have a problem with that. I know people do, though. And I know that there are people who, there are people who will see that and complain and be like, oh, well, the effects are pretty shitty. And it's like, well, I don't know. I watched the CW for years, and I've never had an issue there. I've defended the CW for having shitty effects more times than I can count. I'm not going to sit here and be the person who's like, yeah, and then here is where the problem is. Granted, I realize they have a much bigger budget, because it is the budget of a Marvel movie, which is about $150 to $200 million. I understand that we're dealing with more money here, but I'm not going to come down on the show too hard for effects issues. What else is there? Her and the other, and I forgot his name. I watched the episode last night, but I forgot the guy's name. That she was, She was, that she met up with, who was part of the Red Daggers. That whole, like, that whole thing with them, like, their fight is pretty, their fight's pretty fun, and interesting and unique. I feel like there's definitely, there's definitely more to explore with that relationship, not between them specifically, but just in general with the Red Daggers and all of that. And we have just seen, like, I feel like the other problem with this show is that, because of its proximity to Moon Knight, some of the action set pieces feel similar to Moon Knight. And not even just that they are in the Middle East, and I mean, granted, it was Egypt in in Moon Knight, and here it's Pakistan, but like these chases through the city and these rooftop chases and all of that, and it's like, I've seen this like 3 too many times now, because they also did this in Book of Boba Fett, with the fucking rooftop chase scenes, and it's like, well, I don't really need to see any more rooftop chase scenes. I'm good. And it's like, they've done it too much, and that's not the fault of this show, because this show's like, alright, so I know we're gonna do a rooftop chase scene. It's just that there is no one who's overseeing all of Disney Plus. Like, yeah, but Book of Boba Fett also has a rooftop chase scene, and there's also a rooftop chase scene in Moon Knight. Maybe we can do a different way to do the set piece so it doesn't feel quite so, the same as everything else we've done. But unfortunately, no one did that. I am, I do still like the show. I'm not saying I don't like the show. I do feel like there is definitely more ground to cover. And I feel like it is what's it called? It is it's an interesting look, and I really like that, like, we're going into, like, you know, the culture of Pakistan, and, like, exploring the cultural impact of the British, you know, the partition, and the impact of British colonialism, and all of that. I really like that they're doing that in these places, and I feel like that makes the show interesting to watch, because it gives you something that you don't normally have, and it's like, look, if you're complaining about that, if you're complaining about you know, the fact that they're exploring her relationship to her nationality or her relationship to her religion as part of this show, if that's a complaint you have, then I hope you also had that complaint about Daredevil, especially Daredevil Season 3, in which there's that great scene where, you know, I think it's like episode 1, where he's talking to the sister, and they're talking about the Book of Job, which, you know, for those of you who don't remember what the Book of Job is, it is the story of a guy who is God's perfect servant. He's God's, you know, he does everything God, you know, wants him to, and Satan's like, yeah, but God, you know, he's only doing that because you're treating him well. If we treat him poorly, will he still do that? And God's like, all right, well, let's find out. So then they start treating the guy shitty, you know, killing his flock, killing his kids, killing his wife, and doing all this shit to him to test to see if he will still be the perfect servant to God, even if he is, you know, being treated like shit by life. And he still has faith, so God fixes everything for him, or fixes part of it, because I don't think he resurrects the kids from the dead or the wife from the dead. But either way, it's like, you know, God does make good on the issue. So, looking at it in that, you know, what's it called? Looking at it in that, through that lens of this is what they show, like, you know, using that, and then the nun is basically telling him the story to be like, look, you still have to put faith in God because God will provide. And then he's like, no, but Job was a pussy because Job didn't fight back. Job just did because he thought that it would fix, the situation. And it is an interesting kind of, it is an interesting question. And the whole book of Job reads like a lost issue of Sandman. But if you didn't complain about that, and you're complaining about Ms. Marvel, I think it's fairly obvious what you're saying there. Is that it's not you don't want religion in your thing. It's that you don't want this religion in your thing. So yeah. So we'll wrap up there for today, and we'll be back with Mr. Malcolm's List, I think I'm seeing this weekend. So until then, have a great rest of your week.